Coming to you live from the SC4Devotion studios in sunny Southern California. My name is Three Stooges, and I'm here with CasperVg of SimCity4Devotion. How you doing today, Casper?
I'm well, thank you. I'm doing very fine. I'm a bit nervous, but should be all right.
Oh, nothing to be nervous about. You've been doing quite a fair bit of talking yourself on your podcast for your Mayor's Diary.
Yeah.
Can't imagine this is too different from that.
In a way it is, because I'm not used to actually do a conversation with people. When I'm doing YouTube videos, I just talk into it and see what comes out, but here I actually have to do a conversation with someone, so it's different.
You know, what you're doing with your Mayor's Diary is something I don't think has been done before in the SimCity community that I can think of.
No, that's right. When I started it, I wanted to make sure I had something original to do. Because a lot of things in the major diary were already done quite a few times before that. And I wanted to have something original, so when I came up with doing it as a SimCity 4 Let's Play on YouTube, I was immediately sold for the idea, so I went for it, and it seems people are enjoying it quite a bit, so...
Well, let's take a step back for a minute and go kind of back into the history of how you got in the game and how you came to be at SimCity4Devotion.
Yeah, well... It all began a couple of years ago by now, when I saw the game for the first time in an Apple store. And I looked at it and read the description at the back, and I was immediately sold for the idea. I wasn't much of a gamer back then, still ain't actually. And when I read the description, I really thought it would be a great game to have, because it would have a lot of creativity in it. And, well, I begged my parents for it back then, to buy it for me, and eventually they did. They bought the Mac version, because I didn't have my own laptop back then. And it was only the vanilla version, so no rush hour yet. And yeah, I played it for a couple of years, but then kind of forgot about it after a while. I didn't have any custom content or anything. And then a couple of years later, I think it was around 2007 by then, I was remembered of its existence, bought the game in London actually, because I couldn't find it here in Belgium, and bought the deluxe edition and then began searching for custom content. And that way I came to Simtropolis first, and eventually went to SimCity4Devotion and yeah, started interacting with the community. So
when did you first find your way over to Simtropolis?
I think it was around 2007, I'm not sure actually. I know I registered on SimCity4Devotion in 2007. It was probably only a few months before that I registered on Simtropolis.
And was SimCity 4 your first journey into the SimCity, or SimCity line, simulation games?
It definitely was, yeah. I'm not old enough to have known SimCity 1, SimCity 2K, SimCity 3K. So SimCity 4 was actually my first venture into it, yeah.
And that's something interesting too. I think you may be one of the younger members on the site.
Yeah, in a way I am. I mean, I am 18 by now, but there's a lot of people who are much older than me on there. And there's a difference in generation in a way. Because there's a lot of people who have played SimCity for years now, and for me it's only been a couple of years.
Do you think that in any ways changed the way you play the game or interact with people around here?
Well, it was a little awkward sometimes in the beginning, because I had to talk to a lot of people who were, well, much older than me. Some people were well, some were almost 60 years old or even older than that. So for a child like me, it did. Yeah, it was a strange experience, but I never had any trouble with anyone, and eventually I just learned how to interact with people, and yeah, that worked out pretty well, I think.
So before your current mayor's diary, I know you've had a couple others in the past. What got you inspired to start one?
That's a good question. I never really thought about that much, but there were a lot of back then I was in the ITC team, and a lot of the other members were doing some major diaries on SimCity4Devotion, and I decided I didn't want to feel left out and decided to start one myself.
And what was the point of your diary? What was it you wanted to do with it?
Back then I didn't really have a point to it. I just built a region. It wasn't very special or anything. I just built a region. I never really got further on that region than building the road layout. I mean, it was set on a small island where I built a lot of roads and highways. But yeah, it never went any further than that. It was just an island with some highways. And I mean, people were somewhat excited with it. It was the first days that the RRP came out, the Rural Renewal Project by Chris Adams. And that was a great one. Yeah, absolutely. And I used a lot of it. And yeah, it was cool to be able to experiment with that as well. And well, yeah. And eventually I just, I can't say I lost interest in it, but I had other things to not really to worry about, but other things that I wanted to do, and I spent a lot of time doing custom content. So the Mayor Diary became less and less active, and eventually it moved back into the inactive section, I think.
You mentioned your custom content.
Yeah.
And I noticed that's factored into a few of your diaries here and there, but what got you interested in that?
Well, actually, I had been interested in the custom content from the moment I bought SimCity4 Deluxe in London. And when I found out that you could actually do it, I was immediately sold for the idea. I mean, I wanted to be able to participate in that and do my own things, because sometimes I wasn't happy with the way someone else had done something. Maybe someone had made a lot that I didn't really like, and then I would make it myself, and usually I would keep those private for a while. But eventually I started to discover that people were really releasing lots as well. So I decided to try and get some lots uploaded myself.
Very nice. And was it at SimCity4 specifically that you did that, or which sites were you uploading to?
Yeah, I think the first uploads I did were at Simtropolis, but eventually I tried to go for Lex Candidacy, and after a few tries that weren't very successful, eventually I got it right with the help of a lot of people like XXDita and Barbie W. Eventually I did get it right, and then my first upload was a relot of the Feyenoord stadium. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used it, but it is an interesting building.
And yeah, I think that's one of the things that's helped keep the game interesting and always growing, is the ability to create new lots, create new buildings, and work with stuff that other people have done to create something entirely new.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely what keeps this game interesting, because it has been, I mean, almost 10 years now since the game was released, and we're still playing it, and that's definitely the main cause for that is the custom content, because it keeps the game fresh and it keeps you. It can keep you interested in it that way, because when you would always play with the same stuff for 10 years, I mean, I'm not sure if I know any people who wouldn't get bored after a while. But the custom content really does create a system where you can continually change the way you play the game and change the mods and change everything about it. Yeah, that definitely keeps the game interesting.
So on the custom content side of things, do you consider yourself a lotter by trade, modder? What's your specialty?
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm a lotter mostly. I mean, I do some mods every once and so often, But usually what I do is lotting. I have tried to make some bets once in a while, but usually those attempts didn't really go very far. I never got much further than building a pagoda once. No, not a pagoda. How are they called? A gazebo. Yeah, that's it. I built a gazebo once in the bed, and it looked nice, but that's because it had a lot of symmetry in it, and I was able to just make one side and then copy it for all the other sides. But I never really got much further into it.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a little copy and paste there.
Yeah, of course there isn't anything wrong with it, but I never got further than it anyway.
Well, you've had the chance to work, since you joined back in 2007, you've had the chance to work with the lot editor, a little bit of the X tool.
Yeah.
I'm sure the reader.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people that are looking to get started doing custom content?
What I would suggest is looking at all the tutorials that are available here, both on SimCity4Devotion and on Simtropolis, and on the wiki as well. There is really a lot of help in there, and every time someone asks me how do I get started, I usually direct them to those tutorials, and they're usually pretty happy with those. And even if you do run into trouble, of course, just ask people around. I mean, I'm sure both at SimCity4Devotion and at other communities, everyone will be happy to help you with it. I mean, what I did is I opened up a lot thread in the lot editor projects board, and I just went from there. I posted a few pictures of what I did, and people gave me input on what I could do better or what wasn't good. So the best advice I can give is just open up a thread, show what you got, and look at the tutorials.
I've got to say, I've done one of those tutorials. I actually wrote a tutorial for the lot editor.
Yeah, that one.
And I know the basics of it, but for me, I open it up, and it's more an instance of too many options, not knowing how to make it all work together and look good. Is there a certain way you go about crafting your lots, or is there a certain thing you have for people that may know their way around it but don't know how to make something look good, in a sense?
What I usually do is I try to look up some real-life examples. So, for example, when I lotted a waste collection area, I actually looked at the waste collection area that we have in my hometown and tried to mimic that as much as possible. And it turned out to look very good because it has a realistic feel to it. And what I also try to do is implement as much colors as possible, even though that's not always very realistic, because say a waste collection area that would usually look pretty gray and dull, that doesn't always look good in the game. So I try to use as many colors as possible that make the lot look exciting to have. The SimCity really needs some kind of a colorful feel to it. And that's what I try to have in my lots as well.
So then, as far as knowing what to work with, the number of props that are out there is simply staggering. I know there are a couple of endeavors right now to try and categorize them all.
Yeah.
But when you're working in the lot editor or in the lot editor of the X tool, which, from my experience, seems to be easier to work with, do you know going in which props you want to use? If so, where do you find those out? If you don't, how do you figure out what do you want to use?
Yeah, by now I've developed some kind of a sense for what props are where, and I know in which prop packs there are which props. So what I usually do is when I start on a new lot, I actually make a custom plugin folder for it and put those prop packs that I want into it. But the hard thing is really to know which props are where. And the first lots I made, I didn't really know, and I just went through the entire list of props. Well, not the entire, but most of it, and tried out all the props. And eventually, you learn which kind of props are where. I mean, I know that the Yes Star packs, for example, contain mostly industrial content, and maybe the CP prop packs contain mostly trees. And after a while, I mean, you get to know it, but I know Gmouse, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, has made a nice, some kind of a database of all the props in most packs, and I'm sure that will be very helpful to people who are new to lotting, and that will definitely show you which props are where.
Yeah, it'd probably be in the nuts thread if I remember right?
Yeah.
Oh yes, and if you're looking for that, the Nuts Place is under the SC4Devotion Custom Content Showcase, probably about halfway down currently.
Yeah, it's definitely a good resource. Definitely recommend checking it out.
So then, how long do you think it took you to feel comfortable with going through all those lists to find out where you think things were that you were looking for?
Yeah, I do remember it took quite a while to get used to it. It maybe I think at least a month until I really knew what was going on. And back then I had a lot of time to devote to logging, and I was making maybe one lot a day after a while, and I was doing a lot of industrials back then. I made a large set of 6x6 industrial lots, and by the end of that I really knew which industrial props are where. And somewhat, it's interesting though, because right now I'm not really up to date with what's in there, and I keep using the older props. I mean, I know people like Giraffe and other people have released a lot of new tree props, for example, but I find myself not using those just because I didn't follow their releases, and I'm so used to using the other props as well. So that's one thing I need to change. I mean, I would suggest to always try to keep up with what's new and then try it out. You may not like it, but you should really try it out, and that's something I should do myself as well.
Now, for a person that sees a lot they want to download and maybe wants to relot it themselves, do they need to have the dependencies installed to be able to open the lot successfully and edit it?
No, technically not, I think. The only thing that you will need to have installed is the building itself. I think that's required, although, yeah, in that case, the people would have the building installed, of course. I don't think the props are actually required. I mean, the lot editor won't show anything, or it will show the small Sims, what's it called? The small Sims shape, the green thingy. So I don't think, no, it's not required. At least it isn't for the lot editor. I'm not entirely sure about the LAX, the extended lot from the X tool. But no, you don't actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure for the X tool you can do it too, because I know I've loaded that thing up without a full props folder before.
Yeah, so
and it worked.
Yeah, it is. It's probably possible. Yeah, you could, and then you can just remove the props that you don't have and replace them with something else that you do have. Of course, yeah, it's definitely possible.
So just make sure you clean the lot good and don't save it with anything you don't have.
Yeah, well, maybe that's not even needed. I mean, I know that in some cases you just won't see the prop that isn't installed. But of course, it's better to make sure that you actually remove everything. Of course.
And about how long would that take?
Well,
once you're familiarized yourself with the lot editor.
I know some people who do that very often, and they say, well, yeah, in about a quarter of an hour, I've redone an entire lot. Of course, it depends on the size. If you have a 20 by 20 sports field or something, then it will take longer. But if you have just a small 4x4 building or something, then it might only take 10 minutes. Yeah. I actually do that to myself sometimes. Sometimes when I download certain dots, I'm not happy with the lots. I don't want to spend too much time reloading them. What I do is just I remove everything, place a few new props until I'm happy with it, and then save. I mean, it doesn't take that long.
So, moving from the topic of the lot editor and, working lots for your own ends, in your mayor's diaries, how often do you find yourself relotting stuff specifically for it? I mean, what percentage of it is stuff you've downloaded? What percentage of it is stuff you've made?
Well, I don't really do a lot of reloading for my mayor diary itself. I know some people do their entire cities lotted by themselves. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it always ends up looking really nice, but what I try to do is I try to go from a natural perspective, and then that's not always possible. I mean, I would have to relot way too many residential lots, for example. But I do end up using some of my work, of course. I mean, I have used, for example, my high school relots. I have used my hospital relots. I mean, I do use my own content every so often. I try not to overdo it because I don't want it to become an advertisement for myself. But
those lots, incidentally, can be downloaded from the Lex.
Yeah, usually they can. Yeah, they're not really custom made for the mayor diary itself. Usually they can be downloaded. Yeah. one thing I have reloaded though is, for example, the Mat B residentials. I really like how those lots look. Don't get me wrong, but I don't really like how the CP redwood trees look. I mean, in relation to my other lots, I mean. And what I did is I just loaded them all up and replaced the redwood trees with normal deciduous trees. So, and then I save it and I have those as custom lots. But that's really the only thing in my mayor diary that I made custom for it. Yeah.
So going back to your first mayor's diary, you had that one, you had another one, which I believe is in Casper's portfolio.
Yeah, it's called... I mean, actually, Casper's portfolio is still the same thread as I had the original mayor diary in. I mean, I found myself being a bit... not sure how to say it. I wanted to have a lot of changes in how I play the game, and I really switched my playstyle quite a lot. And what I decided to do is I actually renamed the entire thread into Casper's portfolio so that I could change it whenever I wanted to. So,
it's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, in a way it is. Yeah, especially when you find yourself changing your opinion on how you should do things a lot. I mean, such a system is pretty good. I mean, I think I've done about 4 or 5 regions by now on Casper's portfolio, and I mean, I had Pitcairn Island, which was the first one, and then I had Highsbury Grove, which I think was still my most successful episode in the Casper's portfolio. I mean, people really seemed to like it, and back then I did get quite a few replies on it as well. But eventually, yeah, what I never really anticipated it to become that how do I say is that interesting that interesting for other people. And what happened is I got a lot of comments on it, and it was a popular thing. I mean, I made it into the SC4Devotion classics in about a month. I mean, during awesome. I think I still have the second most growth during an awesome month or something back then. I think I had like 300 or 400 comments in that 1 month alone. So that was pretty radical. And
that's not surprising.
Well, back then I did a lot of teaser pics as well. So I didn't do daily updates, but I had at least a daily teaser, so people could have something new to look at every day. And that really kept the activity going, of course. Although it may not have been the most fair way to do such things, because then you... I was afraid that I was taking off people from other mayor diaries back then, because they would spend too much time on my mayor diary. Because I was really... I mean, it burned me down after a while as well. I mean, working on one teaser a day really... although it is just one picture, it does take up quite some time.
Did you feel a continuing obligation to keep up with that pace?
Yeah, after a while I did actually. Not at the beginning, but eventually people... I felt that people might start to actually expect that to happen. And that made me feel too obligated to actually do it. And then I became, like I said, I became a bit burned out with it.
So, what renewed that interest?
Well, eventually, I mean, it kind of burned out the entire mayor diary. And what really got that interest back after a while is being able to do something original. While I didn't, in the time I didn't do any mayor diaries, I mean, I followed a lot of other mayor diaries and found they were of an excellent quality. And what happened is I was so amazed by the content that other people were producing that I was feeling very insecure about what I made myself. So I never really dared to open up something else unless I would have something original to be able to show. And that's eventually what happened when I opened up the SimCity4 Let's Play, because I felt it was something not a lot of people had done before, and I felt good doing it.
Let me ask you this. Which was your favorite episode to produce so far?
For now, I think it's the Seawalls episode 17, because I really went out of my comfort zone there by working with the Seawalls. I mean, it may not have presented the best video because I had to do a lot of switching and game restarting and everything. But it required me to do something different than just building residentials and farms, which I have got a bit used to. The seawalls was really something I hadn't really worked with for a long time now. So for me personally, it was a very cool experience.
Well, I'll tell you, in a way, that's almost acted like a mini tutorial of sorts as well. I haven't actually worked with the Zero Sea Level mod before.
Yeah.
But it looks like it was put to pretty good use.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with. I mean, when I realized I had to level out the land, what I thought was I have to get rid of the water, and there's multiple ways to do it. I mean, you could just use the cheat. There's a cheat set sea level, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is it also destroys all your bridges when you do that, so that wasn't really an option. And
bit of a problem.
Yeah, then what I thought is, I mean, I know the NAM had released a diagonal bridge enabler mod, which removed the water because it's somehow required for the diagonal bridge. I don't know how it works specifically. And I tried it out, and I had to mod it a bit. I had to get rid of the data that made the roads, because it wasn't possible to actually place roads to level out terrain in its original form. So I had to mod it a bit so that it only removed the water and didn't change anything else. So it was it was really an interesting experience for myself as well, because I had to work with what I had. And I think actually Noah posted on my thing, or I'm not sure if it was Noah actually, it was someone who said, yeah, you could have just used that mod and it would have worked just as well. And he was right. I mean, there's just a setting in the terrain mod that allows you to turn off sea level. So I could have just done that, but figuring it out with the DBE was interesting as well.
Yeah, the diagonal bridge enabler, the reason it gets rid of the water is when you're drawing a bridge in the game, the roads, road networks and rail networks and all the other networks, when they encounter game water on a tile, it's actually a block to building anything there. So in order to actually build a diagonal bridge, you're not really building a bridge that the game recognizes. You're building a road. That water is going to fill up the space underneath. Yeah,
that was what I realized when I had issues with using the roads to level things. It always showed those foundations, or what are they, the retaining walls. So I couldn't actually level anything. Yeah, I realized that way too late.
It's effectively a very aggressive slope mod.
Yeah, it turned out it was actually. Yeah.
But it's a fascinating development.
Yeah, definitely. Sure, I mean, people have been asking for diagonal bridges for a while now. So, yeah, I was personally excited when they came out. I just haven't used them yet. I should probably in one of the episodes.
So, who have been some of your inspirations? What Mayor's Diaries have impressed you the most? Where do you get your inspiration for what you're doing in the game?
Well, for example, I really liked the Erland Major Diary by Nardo69, I think. He was one of my main inspirations, actually. Although my cities don't really look like his, he really inspired me to start my first Major Diary back then. I mean, I'm still amazed by the detail he could put into the terrain system, especially. I mean, he was really good at that. And yeah, a lot of other people have influenced me. For example, Enedi as well with his Shozaloza, which was really good. And I mean, Tercusian Cities by Alex was also one of my main inspirations, because he really mastered the way he built his transportation system, for example. Although on a different scale than what I'm doing, of course, right now. Right now, I'm just building it as I go, and maybe I will update it eventually. But what he did was really special as well. I am actually using his terrain mod as well. I think it's the same one he's using. His Wasco terrain mod. I really like it. I mean, it's dry, it's arid, but I love it. Yeah.
And I love the way that he takes the time not only to plan out what he wants to do with his networks, but actually to show the construction in progress.
Yeah, definitely. And also he does a lot of maps he makes. He makes after he does the building, and that gives you a nice overview of the cities as well.
Maps in the sense of the road maps.
Yeah, the road maps then, yeah.
Because I know there are a couple other members on the site that make maps for the game.
No, that's not what I want. Yeah. Those are interesting as well, of course, but no, I mean road maps, yeah.
Yeah, it's an impressive little thing that he does.
Yeah, it must take a lot of time.
I'll have to ask him about that when I chat with him.
Yeah, do that.
So then, what have you taken from them and incorporated into your cities? And especially with your current Let's Play, what's driving the construction of your cities?
Actually, another person who was an inspiration for my game style right now is CSG Design, who did how is it called, a natural growth major diary that he kept up, where he really let the city grow naturally without anything of any mods or any forcing the city into what it wanted to be, what he wanted it to be. He just let the city grow, and that's actually what I'm doing in my Let's Play as well. I mean, I tried not to force the city into the way I want it to be, but just build it along as I go and look at the growth charts and the desirability and everything to try to plan out a realistic city in the way the simulation presents it to me.
So there's no end goal, no end vision plan for your city right now?
Not really, actually. I'm not one for big visions. I mean, when I started the Let's Play, what I did, I just selected a random map from Maxis. I mean, I selected the London region, I selected a random tile in that region and started building. I really didn't plan out any of it. I still don't, actually. Well, even when I do an episode, I mean, I don't know what I will do until I start the episode. It's all very, very unplanned right now.
And I know you've incorporated a couple of live stream events to your Mayor's Diary as well.
Yeah.
Do the people watching live, do they influence what's going on?
They do sometimes. I mean, it has been some time since I was done one, but when people... the thing with live streams is people can live input their suggestions. So what I do is I really do watch the chat when I do that, and actually try to they always have good suggestions. So I do incorporate those as much as possible when I think they are right, and they usually are.
So what you're doing with your current Mayor's Diary, or current version of the Mayor's Diary, is a little unique. Where does it go from here?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I certainly am enjoying doing it, and I see it, well, go for the foreseeable future. I see it going on. I mean, I am enjoying it. People are enjoying it. I'm getting a lot of views, so why not continue? And eventually there will be a point at which the city is somewhat filled entirely. I mean, that's still a long ways away. What I will do then is just probably start a new region. Maybe do something different. I mean, right now I've been doing this American style of building for a long while now. Even during my other major diaries before, I used that a lot. And maybe when the city I'm building right now is complete, I will completely throw away my plugins folder and start from scratch. Maybe do a new style, maybe something European or a Venice-like city or something. So in the foreseeable future, not much will change. I mean, I will still be doing the London region there, but eventually, I mean, when it's full, I will restart on a new city tile and on a new region and do something completely different, I think.
Are you planning to do any sort of tutorials or anything for people on your Let's Play?
That's a good question, actually. I may actually implement some tutorials soon. I mean, I have been thinking about it. I'm not sure entirely yet if that's even possible. But what I wanted to do actually is do a video tutorial series on how to do correct modding and how to package your stuff to be ready for a release. Because that's something I was a Lex scrutineer for quite a while now, and it's something that some people really don't know. Some people, well, they do know, but they have it's a steep learning curve when you want to do correct packaging and readme making and all that. And I somewhat enjoy doing that. So what I wanted to do is do a video series on it where I show myself making a certain lot ready for release, and then people can use that as a base to try and make sure that their content is perfect, is in a good shape to be released as well. That may be something I want to do, and well, maybe eventually I will do some in-game tutorials as well for, I don't know if there's some request for it. I may do, I don't know, a tutorial on building, I don't know, a nice looking CTD, not a CTD.
Yeah, those are never nice looking.
A nice looking CBD. That's what I wanted to talk. Yeah, but although I'm not really an expert in it, so it probably won't be that on that subject. But yeah, if someone requests a certain tutorial that I can help, and sure, I will do a YouTube tutorial. Sure, no problem.
I really like the idea of the scrutineering tutorial too. It'll take some of the mystery out of all the steps involved.
Yeah, I mean, there are the threads that describe what you have to do, but I think that having a YouTube video would actually explain it in a visual sense as well. I mean, reading some instructions is different from actually watching someone do the instructions for you. That might actually be a very good way to be able to work on your packaging and make sure that everything is fine before you upload it to an exchange.
Definitely, and even though I say there are a lot of steps involved, it's really not that bad once you go through it a couple times.
Yeah,
I know I've packaged up a few lots myself, some in conjunction with you. Thanks for the help.
No problem. Yeah, I really enjoy that. Yeah,
but yeah, once you do it a couple times, it's just a matter of checking yourself to make sure everything's right.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. I mean, after a while, it really becomes you really become used to it, and then it really isn't all that hard anymore. Yeah, so now I have really committed myself to doing that, of course.
Yes, the clock's begun. Get them done now.
Yeah, I'll get them done eventually. I know. I really want to do it. I just have to find the time for it. Yeah, I'm sure people will be able to put those to good use. I hope they will, because it would be really good to see some new stuff on the Lex as well.
Indeed, the more people we get there, the better the amount of content out there gets, and the better the game gets.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I was saying about the game. It keeps being interesting as long as there's new content. Yeah.
Well, Casper, I appreciate you taking the time to come talk with us today. Is there anything specific we can look for in the rest of your month here in special interest?
Well, of course, I will be doing, I hope, at least 3 updates a week, and I'll be working on the London area as much as possible. I mean, I will probably do something special, but maybe that will be a surprise. Who knows? You'll have to see.
Right.
You'll have to check back to see what I do.
Well, everyone listening to this, keep an eye out on special interest this month, Casper's portfolio.
Yep.
Keeping up with some new videos, possibly a tutorial too. We'll see.
Yeah.
But certainly plenty going on in his thread to check out. You can also find his lots on Lex.
Yep.
Under his name, CasperVg. And thanks for joining us this time around. I'll catch you next time with a new person to interview.
See ya.